Hey, I'm Kim. Welcome to the Executive Assistant Playbook. I'm so glad that you're here. In my intro video, I mentioned the fact that I have been in the administrative support world for over 12 years, and so I thought that it would be helpful to explain my career trajectory, how I started, how I got to where I am today, in case you are curious, number one. Number two, wanting to grow your career and want to hear, a different perspective of how someone has done it, or you're looking to get into this career and you just want to know what it could look like for you. So we'll hop in the way back machine because we're going back at least 12 years here. I was a young little thing living in Memphis, Tennessee, my hometown. Go Tigers! And I had started working when I was young in food service, retail. I had gotten into the hotel industry, the hospitality industry, and I loved it. I loved the hospitality industry. It was right up my alley. I am an extrovert. Well, at least at the time I was much more of an extrovert than I am now. I really do love my alone time now. But I love people. I love meeting people and talking to them and getting to know them and helping them. And in the hotel world, you meet so many cool different people and you're able to just impact them in really special ways. But the thing that was really hard about the hotel industry is that the hours that I was working were very late. I had a very late shift and there was no way for me to get out of that shift. So being a young 20-something, of course I wanted to spend time with my friends. I wanted to go out. I wanted to have a life, and working late every night, pretty much every single weekend, meant that I really couldn't, and I missed out on a lot of stuff, and it was just hard, So I made the really tough decision to leave a field that I really loved in order to be able to have a social life and to, actually see my friends when they did stuff. So I was like, you know what? An office job sounds great. Those people work 8 to 5. I'm going to go get an office job. Had no intentions or desires to get into administrative work. I tell everyone that I just kind of fell into it for that reason, and it has worked out really well for me. I ended up finding something that I actually am really good at, and for the most part enjoy doing. As I've said before, it's a really hard job and it's really stressful, and there's days that they're just not fun. But anyway, back in the way back machine we go. So I got a job at a law office, and what they had available was just an office clerk. So that meant that I was running all the errands. I was taking paperwork to different courts to get them filed. There was a real estate function within that, so I did a lot of running very quickly to closings with checks and paperwork and all of that stuff, and then helping around the office, doing receptionist work when the receptionist was out, filing around the office, keeping things organized. This was kind of on the cusp of, I wouldn't say the digital transformation, but there was a lot of paperwork that they wanted to get digitized, and it was a huge task. So I spent 3 years working for that law firm. And, it was really fascinating because I learned about different types of law. I helped out, with a lot of the legal secretary work if someone needed extra support. It was very much a put me in coach kind of role. Wherever they needed me, that's where I went. And throughout that, I realized that I don't actually love the legal field. I think, it's fascinating, but seeing the behind the scenes, I think had I not had that opportunity, I would have thought, oh yeah, I can totally go to school and be a lawyer. That sounds fascinating. In fact, one of my best friends is a criminal defense lawyer, and she's so cool. And I think it's, so interesting. But knowing that behind the scenes, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not for me. So I just knew that that's not what I wanted to do forever. I didn't want to go back to school to be a paralegal, and I didn't want to go back to school to be a lawyer. It didn't fit. So and there was no other way to grow within that firm. The firm wasn't growing. The partners were set. The legal secretaries were set. There was no other growth available. And so I made the decision to join an accounting firm. Very small business. It was a family business, and I came on as the receptionist, office manager, executive assistant. Because it was so small, I played so many different roles. I was even part personal assistant as well, because this one was just incredibly busy running a business. Like, running a business is very hard, and you just need support. And so I did that for just over a year, and that was really fascinating to learn more about accounting and finances in like that particular field. And then I was just kind of ready to like move away from home. I wanted to try something new. Nashville had always fascinated me. I thought it'd be a really cool place to live. And so I made the decision to move to Nashville. And because that firm is so tiny, and this was before remote work was even really like a thing as much as it is today, of course I had to get a different job. So when I moved to Nashville, I joined a manufacturing company, a waste oil heater company. And they already had an executive assistant, but I was the, kind of like junior assistant / receptionist. Again, a small company, so you play like a lot of different roles. You will find, if you don't already know, you will find that you wear so many different hats in the administrative support field. Like, your title might be one thing, but you will find yourself doing so many other things. So if that is not your cup of tea, this is not the field for you. If you like to be surprised every day with what you're going to do, this might be the one. So I was with that company for probably like a year and a half. Again, it was small. There wasn't like a ton of opportunity for growth outside of, the executive assistant role, which at the time didn't really like spark interest, And I was having fun, and I loved the people that I worked with, but I wanted to work for a bigger company. I wanted to learn more faster, and that just wasn't an option with that company. So a recruiter reached out to me and asked, if I wanted to chat about joining a company that had a global presence, and being an executive assistant for a senior vice president and a senior director, and also just kind of being the site ambassador is what they called it. It's a receptionist. So I saw that as an opportunity to really grow in my career, and it also was a pay raise, so that's always influential, right? And so I joined that company, and I was with them for 6 years, just continuing to grow like crazy. I mean, it was quite the journey with that company, and I learned so much, and my resume just was stacked because of it. Okay, so when I joined this company, I was the site ambassador, so receptionist, and the executive assistant to the SVP, and also a senior director, and also part-time office mom to about 800 employees. Globally, I think we had about 3,000 employees, but around the 800 or so employees in Nashville, I was partly in charge of caring for as they needed. There was an administrative support team. There were other executive assistants there that helped with that, but so it's not like I had 800 office children. That would have been super overwhelming, but it was super important for me to be able to support them on top of supporting, my executives. And the first 3 months or so were just chaotic. They were awesome, but they were chaotic because I was learning a whole entire industry that I had never been a part of. It was in the technology field. So when I say I have been in various industries, I mean it. Every single job I've had, I have changed industries. And that's not on purpose. That's just kind of how it happens. I really like the variety. I think it has been amazing for me in my career and has made me even better at what I do, just to have that variety of experience. I am not saying that you have to change industries. If you are in an industry that you love, that you're comfortable with, or that you're passionate about, stay there. You do not have to do what I did. I just really enjoy doing different things, so I tend to seek those out. So I was, trying to support this busy executive who had so much more responsibility than any executive I'd ever had. I was in a global company, so I was learning the ins and outs of that. And then also, for the first time in my life, working with so many more people. I mean, up until that point, I think the max amount of people I'd worked with at any given time was like 35. And so you go from 35 people to like 800 plus in your one building. That doesn't even include everyone that, all the other leaders that you have to know and all of that stuff. I mean, it was overwhelming and busy and exciting, but I'm very much a trial by fire kind of person. I love to just, even though it's like, I really don't advise this to people, I find myself in situations where I'm just drinking from the fire hose all the time. So within that first 3 months, I was managing all of this, like learning all of this for the first time, but also having so many responsibilities. There was a whole lot going on in that particular office. There were a lot of events that I was tasked with. So I had done event planning in the past, but this was much larger with much larger budgets. There was one where I hired a showboat to cart all the Nashville employees down the river and back as a celebration. There was a company kickoff that I did. Like, there was just a lot going on, and I was very overwhelmed. And, also supporting my executive and keeping him on top of everything that he needed to do. And I was just working so hard. And I earned the ability to hire out the reception as part of my job, which was a huge win in multiple ways, because that meant that I had proved myself that like I could take on so much and do really well, but also had proved that there was a need for that role to be split. So once we hired that receptionist in, or site ambassador in, I was able to fully focus on the executive assisting part of that role. And throughout that time, we just switched departments, had different team leaders. There was so much opportunity for growth for both of us. I got different leaders. I had the one SVP the whole entire time that I was with that company, but there were other leaders that I supported along the way as well. And so throughout that, I took on some project management responsibilities. The company really liked my work, and so they agreed to pay for my project management schooling and testing, and so I got my certificate through that. Very thankful for that. That was huge. Led some really impactful projects for that company with really great teams, and planned more events, was put in charge of planning the company kickoffs after a while, planned virtual events. There was a whole lot, and I just kept saying yes. I just kept showing up, and I kept saying yes. Even if I was scared, even if it was something new, I knew that if anyone could do it, I could do it. And I was committed to figuring out how. So within that role, I got into C-suite support, which, if you're unaware, it's just supporting a C-level executive, like a CEO, COO, CHRO. Like, there's a whole bunch of different C's that you can have, but they're just the chiefs of the company. And we were hiring a new COO, and she thought that she might bring on her own support, but there was just a certain amount of time where that was kind of in transition. She wasn't sure what she was going to do, so on and so forth. And so my executive was like, hey, why don't you just help her out a little bit and we'll see what happens. So I did. I took her on for an interim period, was helping her with various tasks, and throughout that, she was very pleased with my work, and our connection was great. And she said, hey, listen, why don't you just be my EA? I was like, heck yeah, girl, I'm in. Anyways, at that point, I was so busy with supporting the C-suite level executive, because that's a whole different ball game, and then just supporting your kind of like run-of-the-mill executive, just because they have so much more that they have to do and that they're responsible for, that during that time I was just focusing on my EA work, not necessarily any like project management stuff. And so like throughout that 6 years with that company, like my career just kind of flexed back and forth. We were in different departments, I was doing different things. I think the most important thing about that is that I generally always said in terms of just growth and being able to grow. Like, that's all that I was interested in, was growing myself, growing in my career, And yeah, so that was probably like the best thing that I could have done to grow. So moving on, she left the company. We were moved to a different department. I took on a different role, more event planning based. That is something that I'm really passionate about and I really love. So I loved that opportunity and did that for a while. And then my favorite executive ended up leaving. I followed him to a different company, did that for a little while, and moved on to a different company, always supporting C-suite executives, and here we are. So that is a quick world tour of the past 12 years of my life. So I hope that if anything, that what you get out of that is that the ability to be open-minded and just to say yes to new opportunities, even if you're not like so sure where it's going to lead. Like I never like always saw like, if I take step B, it's definitely going to lead me to step C and then D, and it's going to get me here to this goal. I didn't always see a straight line to success, but I always hoped that it would get me to where I wanted to be. And that thought process never led me wrong. So yeah, I hope that helps. If you have any questions about that, just pop them in the comments. But we'll just continue to dive deeper into skill sets. Some of my favorite that I have developed over my career, some of the ones that I don't really care for, how to better work with your executives, how to better work with the teams that they manage when you are making a big career shift. Hello, I've done it so many different times. So we'll be talking more about that in the future. So hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you here next time. Bye.